pull. Aim at the box.
Hit. In this video, I'll be discussing gun safety, sight alignment, trigger control, and a quick little rant about gun control. But this is basic if you've never fired a gun, or you've been considering it, or you just want to play with BB guns. The principles are the same. I subscribe to the idea, if you're looking at this diagram, that the one at the lower right corner is correct. Proper sight alignment, sight picture. That's how I like to do it. If you look at the others, the one to the upper left, you're going to be shooting at a 6 o'clock. Right next to it, you're going to be shooting at a 12. Next to that, 3. Yeah, next to that, more like a 9 o'clock. Basically, you know, you're looking at that center. And that's basically the whole thing in a nutshell. If you mentally got that in your head, you could think of it like 3 men standing in a row. But mentally, the whole trick is holding that sight alignment picture as you pull straight back on the trigger. This is another aspect of this. Again, focusing, and you do need to get that in your head. Basically, the one in green, all the way to the right, is correct sight picture. You want to be focused on that front sight first. The rear can be like a peripheral, and the target is peripheral. But you want that front sight, those 2 rear sights next to it level, and you want to focus on holding that front sight aligned with the 2 rear sights to the bottom of the target. And when you do that, you're going to hit your target every time. That's it. A lot of people focus on the target.
Probably did.
Oh, snap. Cool.
Talked about sight alignment. Now let's go on to trigger control. Basically, a good way to look at it, assuming you've never shot a gun, is the part of the diagram that's all the way on the left. Basically, that's where you want to go. Middle of your finger, index finger, pulling the trigger, and you can see the grip should match, because you can look at the diagrams, you can see the other 2 are crooked. And if
again, you got your grip, slow, steady pull. Squeeze. Doesn't matter what you're using. This is the last one was Smith & Wesson M&P Glock 17, and you're going to see the little tip right there. That's your safety measure, so you won't fire. There's no safety on this bad boy. Again, slow, steady squeeze. Break. On these, you have a reset. So you hear it when I let go. Now, before you let up completely, you just watch that trigger. You hear it click. That's the reset. And you can pull again. Then when you're round ejects, Taurus PT 111, nice concealed carry. Again, safety check it. Like the slide. You're good. Snap caps in. See the round in the chamber or being loaded. Like the slide. You're good. This one has a long trigger. All that. Some people don't like that. Alright. A lot of people don't like that. But I got this really inexpensive, so I like it. And again, I have all that room. It's almost like going all the way back. So you do a slow, steady squeeze. Reset. Break. Round ejects. Pull it all the way back. It's like it should be firing, but it's not. And then break. Reset. And just think, if you let go all the way, you have all that space. I made this to it's kind of like a trainer to help me, friends of mine, to self-train. You remember Omar? He was all over the news for his showing off at the Pulse place. So I figured, as a motivator, I'll make my target like that there. And basically, it's giving you limp wrist and not following through, pushing, anticipating the recoil, too much trigger, tightening fingers, slapping the trigger, very common. But basically, that's just training, a little guide I made up to help motivate. Doesn't matter. All right, I'm all out. As you can see, that's my results. And I did everything pretty much right-handed. I'm right-handed, so it was 2 rounds, 2 sets going right-handed with a strong hand, and then I did about 5 rounds with the weak hand, which is left hand. But you can see 1 wrist break, or what we call pushing forward on the trigger. A little high, so you could call that. But it's just something to go back and look. We should keep the victims in our prayers, keep our enemies in our prayers, and keep them in our sights. But that's basically what we're looking at. Trying to get the cell phone missed.
Treat every gun as if it's loaded. I treat my pellet guns, BB guns, the same as I would the real thing, because it's mental habits that get people hurt or killed. So when I pick it up, I assume it's loaded until I open it up, safety check it, and make sure that it's not. By safety checking, I mean eject the magazine from the grip, bring the slide back, and make sure it's empty. It's that simple. Next one. Keep your gun pointed in a safe direction. And in other circles, keep it pointed down range if you're at a range, but basically you don't point the gun at anything that you do not intend to shoot. All right, safety check, eject the magazine, lock the slide back, and handed a gun to my sister-in-law. She never held a real thing, and instinctively she turned and pointed at her son, and bang bang, it's playing. I almost lost my mind, but gun people know, you know what I'm talking about, because you treat it, you point it in a safe direction, you keep it pointing the muzzle down range, you never point it at something you don't intend to shoot. In the event that fateful day it's loaded and you don't think it is, always keep it in a safe direction. And lastly, keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Very basic. Again,
almost. You leaning back or you leaning forward? There you go. Feet spread apart. There you go. Are you leaning forward or back? There you go. Keep trying. Good job.
Right in the middle.
Oh.
okay, when it comes to gun control, where do I start? It's the deal. Criminals are going to have theirs, no matter what you do. Laws are not for criminals. Laws are for law-abiding people. Law-abiding people don't kill people without a reason. Gun owners, you don't see, rarely, if ever, the media that would cover how many times somebody saved somebody's life because they were carrying, or how many times an innocent person was saved or lay on. It's like everything is geared to get you to think a certain way. You hear about guns when there's a mass shooting. You hear about guns when somebody's breaking the law every day. You hear about guns if the cops shoot somebody, provided the color's correct. But you never hear about the billions of stories where the innocent were able to survive because they had a gun. And you're not going to hear how many times, say there's a story, Tim Black, if you look at it, like, you don't hear nothing about that. You know, nothing.
And a number of African-American activists are speaking out against gun control laws currently being proposed. Will include a former Dallas Cowboys football player, the head of the National Black Chamber of Commerce, and a doctor from the Clayton State University Health Clinic. The Center for Urban Renewal and Education is hosting this event, and it's just getting underway.
This morning I'm going to speak for our chairman of the board for the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, G. Kenneth Blackwell, who could not be here this morning, but prepared a statement that I'm going to read for you now. With a little help of technology. The Second Amendment is a fundamental right enshrined in that sacred list of liberties in our Constitution that we call the Bill of Rights. It is right alongside the freedom of speech, the freedom of religious faith, the right that no person can ever make you a slave, the right that no state can deprive us of our rights or equal protection of the law, and the right to vote. It is a right of self-defense. In 1791, that right was adopted as the Second Amendment, as a right of the people to band together to collectively defend themselves against public violence, meaning government tyranny. In 1868, that right was extended through the 14th Amendment to also defend against government oppression by state or local governments. And by 1791, through 1868 to 2013, it was and is also the right to defend yourself against private violence, the violence perpetrated by criminals. Yes, the framers of the Constitution wanted people to be able to hunt, and that is an essential part of our cultural fabric as a people. It is a rich part of our heritage, part of self-reliance, a way of passing down our values. It also provides precious time to spend time together for fathers and sons, and increasingly mothers and daughters. The right to bear arms is also for competition, for sporting, and is also for collectors. But as the Supreme Court recognized just 5 years ago, it was for the right of self-defense against some future government that would refuse to stand for re-election and would hold on to power by military might, and against lawlessness and heartless folks who would victimize others. That those who founded our nation made this right part of the supreme law of the land, forever trumping every president, Congress, and court that would ever hold office in the United States. That right to protect one's life and liberty is a God-given right. It is a gift from God, not a grant from government.
May 6th, near 67th Avenue and Indian School in Phoenix, police say 20-year-old Michael Lewis is breaking into the home of a widow who told me that her late husband taught her something that would save her life: how to handle a .38 caliber handgun.
Yeah, I've got a lot of options coming out now.
It just broke in.
It just broke?
Yeah, that was my upstairs door.
Okay, yeah, I've got them coming out. They're coming out as fast as they can.
The homeowner begs the dispatcher for help before hiding in the bathroom.
You don't need to answer anything. I'm going to stay on the line with you, okay?
What was that? What was that? What was that? What did you do?
What happened?
What did you do? Did you use the beat? You have to shit that? Sorry. What you tell me right now for? Oh, no. I shot him.
You shot him?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I've got them. I've got everybody coming out for help, okay?
Please hurry. Don't get up, I'll shoot you. Again.
Out of breath, she tries to explain whether she's hurt.
I don't know. My face was bleeding. I'm bleeding from some places. I don't know. I don't know. He was beating on me.
He was hitting you?
He was beating on me when he found out I was in here.
Michael Lewis pled guilty to second-degree burglary and aggravated assault. He was granted bond last week, and he is out of jail right now while he waits being sentenced here on September 15th. If you go to 12news.azcentral.com, you can hear the entire 911.
If I was attacked and possibly raped, and I'm not sure anybody watch our news, and women are being assaulted every day, but I would not want to try to defend myself against a rapist with some bodily fluids. We pastor churches in the city of Newburgh, which has the highest crime rate right now. I work with ex-offenders every day. Most of the ex-offenders, and I've worked with ex-offenders, the formerly incarcerated and incarcerated, for over 25 years. Most of the individuals I work with some of them have gun charges. Not one of those criminals that I work with or ex-offenders, their gun charges have never been that they legally own these pistols. Can we get this right in the media? Congress, they have never been where those guns they owned were because they legally went and possessed those, okay? Now, if I had an attacker come against me, I don't think any of those men who will corner me, I would say, I have a pen and this is gonna stop you, or I'm gonna pee my pants and this is gonna stop you from raping me. I'm gonna pull out my .38 that I legally own, and I'm gonna aim for center mass or whatever, and I'm gonna shoot them, and that's gonna stop him from assaulting me. And I think when I go home that evening, my husband is gonna be comfortable that I did that. My husband takes me to the range, and there's a couple of ranges where we live, and that makes him comfortable that I am trained to use those firearms.
Nightmare begins. He appears to have a gun in his pocket and orders her to hand over all her cash. But that's not all he wants. He also orders her to come around from behind her.
I got real nervous and I said, why? I've already given you the money. There's nothing else. And by then I was terrified.
So terrified that she does something she's never done in her life. She grabs a gun hidden in a drawer and pulls the trigger. It's the first time she's ever fired a gun.
I felt that my life was in danger and I wasn't ready to die. I wasn't ready to go yet.
The suspect goes down, but he's still alive.
I was going to shoot him again, and that's when he started screaming, I don't have anything, ma'am, I don't have anything.
The suspect doesn't have a weapon, and now Smith could be in trouble, facing possible charges for shooting an unarmed man.
And I was more worried about them coming after me.
Fortunately for the sales clerk, the video shows her being threatened and shooting in self-defense.
The Australian government, as part of trying to clamp down on the availability of automatic weapons, offered a good price for buying hundreds of thousands of guns. They believed, and I think the evidence supports them, that by offering to buy back those guns, they were able to, curtail the supply and to set a different standard for gun purchases in the future. So I think that's worth considering.
I was a bit horrified by that. I don't think Australia is a model for the United States on gun control at all.
Senator David Leyonhjelm, the strongest voice for gun owners in Australia's parliament, and a target shooter himself, told me Australia's mandatory confiscation has not kept guns out of the hands of criminals, and it won't work in America either.
It made no difference to firearms violence, to gun violence, violence overall. In fact, we had a blip up in general violence after the gun ban. The massive so-called buyback, it was a confiscation with compensation program. Semi-automatic rifles and shotguns and pump-action shotguns were essentially prohibited. It also removed the right to own a gun in any state in Australia for self-defence. We're a nation of victims. You cannot own a gun for self-defence. Doesn't matter what the circumstances, doesn't matter how big the threat, you cannot defend yourself. The criminals still have plenty of guns. There's no shortage of guns. There's a very vigorous black market for guns. So it's really not made the slightest bit of difference. If you want a gun, you can get one. Look at what Australia did. It's a defenceless country. It's not something that any country should contemplate. It's completely disarming the population.
Think about it. Think about it.